beneath the moonlight, 3 eager ghost hunters crept toward the sulphur-lit silhouette of Ravensbrook Asylum's looming facade. The iron gates, rusted by time, stood ajar, as if in invitation to their bold intrusion. John, the leader with a heady mix of enthusiasm and skepticism, whispered directions while Liv, their skeptical yet daring tech expert, filmed the symbolic crossing of the threshold with a jittery bodycam. Behind them, Carl, the crew's braggart cameraman, gripped the EVP recorder tightly, eager to capture the asylum's infamous ghosts. Inside, the air grew stifling, with an odor reminiscent of burnt chemicals mingling with mold, the past clinging to every peeling strip of wallpaper. Their footsteps echoed ominously through the main corridor, where tarnished plaques once bore the names of illustrious, without conscience, doctors now blurred with dust and age. Each door they passed seemed to groan against forgotten winds that whispered secrets long buried. The trio's chatter dwindled into a hesitant silence, interrupted only by the occasional static crackling from their equipment. With each flicker of the flashlight, shadows leapt awkwardly, seemingly fleeing from the beams, and a creeping sense of unease slithered into their minds. Was it the unsettling stillness, or did they all just hear a distant, hollow moan? They glanced at one another, searching for answers in the growing shadows of the abandoned halls. They moved deeper into the bowels of the asylum, their footsteps tentative over the decaying floorboards. Whispers of history clung to the air, turning every creak and groan into ghostly sighs. Liv, now ahead, adjusted the thermal camera, peering through to translate the abyss into spectrums of potential evidence. The screen flickered, and for a brief moment, a silhouette slid across the screen, a silent shadow, vanishing too quickly to grasp. John, trying to maintain bravado, spoke into the camera, narrating their exploration with forced cheer. "We're only getting started," he reassured himself as much as the potential viewers. But the unsettling tension was a palpable entity, weaving its way into their nerves. Ahead, the corridor branched into darkness, each passage a labyrinth of abandoned rooms filled with empty beds and echoes of those who once occupied them. Suddenly, the EVP recorder squealed in Carl's hands, emitting unsettling static that flared to life with disjointed voices. Startled, Liv swung the camera toward Carl, capturing his pale face, twisted with confusion. "Did you hear that?" Liv asked nervously. Silence answered, save for the distant sound of dripping water. The first tangible hint of something otherworldly, and it came with an undeniable sense of being watched. A sudden draft swept through the corridor, chilling and inexplicable, ruffling Carl's damp hair. It carried a faint scent of smoke, whispering of the fire that had supposedly sealed the asylum's fate. Their path, once clear, now twisted with unexpected branches, forcing them deeper into the unwanted embrace of the forsaken halls. Each turn brought upon them a claustrophobic anxiety, walls closing in under the weight of unseen memories. Liv paused at the entrance of what appeared to be an administrative office, the door splintered and hanging at an odd angle. The room beyond was suffocated by mounds of paper, their edges curled and browned, detailing forgotten lives and unuttered screams inked in hasty scrawl. Their entry seemed to awaken something, a low whisper rushing past their ears. Leave, leave, leave. A warning. Or merely a trick of the mind cracked by the tension. John and Carl flanked Liv as they hesitantly crossed the threshold into the room. John panned the camera around, eyes wide, suddenly besieged by an overwhelming vertigo, as if the room itself was spinning. "It's nothing, just the building creaking," he mumbled, more to his trembling hands than to anyone else. Yet doubts lingered in their mind, accentuated by the growing sense of being led rather than exploring. A puppet, guided by strings unseen, trailing beyond the office, as if following ethereal breadcrumbs. The group's fragile composure shattered when they reached a dead-end hallway, abruptly confronted by an array of paintings on the crumbling walls. Each frame contained portraits of expressionless faces, lost to time, former denizens of the asylum, their eyes hollow, staring into a past that bled into the present. Liv carefully adjusted the night vision camera, the frames emerging eerily from the darkness. Each face seemed alive with an unsettling energy, imbued with silent accusations. An inexplicable chill wrapped around their hearts. John's voice was unnaturally calm as he suggested they move on, the hallway's oppressive atmosphere tangibly imperious. Descriptions and details beneath each portrait tarnished, unreadable, as if time itself conspired to conceal secrets best left forgotten. The paintings tugged at their minds, each canvassed life whispering untold stories of suffering and despair, rendered surreal beneath the dim, technology-enabled light. Carl turned sharply, feeling ghostly fingers brushing his hand, freezing him in place. With adrenaline propelling their feet, they retreated quickly, the familiar touch of an unseen force enough to urge them onward, though none spoke of it. Silence screamed after them through the hallways of forgotten souls. The asylum housed within it a chapel of wavering light, a sanctuary that offered neither peace nor solace. Gothic arches, once majestic, curved up toward a sagging ceiling, holding barely intact stained glass. Vibrant, once gorgeous hues cast wayward colors across the dust-choked floor, creating patterns of unnatural beauty marred by neglect. A dusky hymn twined its ghostly echo through the room, the sound neither modern nor ancient, but otherworldly. It resonated beneath their skin, soaking into the marrow of their bones. Liv's camera panned slowly over the spectral choir loft, revealing rows of pews thronged with shadows, their sculpted forms etched in desperation. Lost in momentary awe, John stepped forward, and the floor moaned with foreboding, his continued movement an unknowing testament to the frailty of old wood. Some visions of peace felt threatened even by their presence, and the crew couldn't discern if it was their footsteps that shifted the air or the ancient breath of those unable to leave. With each fading note of the ghostly hymn, their hearts thumped loudly against their ribs, a sound desperately alive amid immobile relics. Past the chapel lay the heart of Ravensbrook, an inner courtyard dilapidated and strangled by wild overgrowth. Nature had encroached upon the walls of man and their failing structures. Ferns curled around rotten benches, and tendrils of vines claimed the earth. Beyond beauty, the place held an eerie vitality, its rustling leaves akin to the whispers of secrets taken by the wind. Moving carefully, they approached the center where a crumbling fountain stood, its stagnant base a murky reflection of the decaying sanctuary. John shone a flashlight into the water, a ripple racing across the surface, only to reveal mirrored faces. For a fraction of a second, strangers peered back at him from beneath the depths. Dread pooled in the pit of their stomachs at the unmistakable reflection of those who weren't there. Faces twisted in silent pleas just below the water's film. The air tightened around them, charged with an unseen energy as they retreated from the fountain. Leaving the courtyard behind, they pushed forward with a growing knowledge that the asylum harbored not just echoes of the past, but glimmers of persistent suffering. The group's determined exploration led them into what was once the asylum's wing designated for the most troubled patients, enigmatic cases that had resisted conventional treatment. It had been allocated to those the asylum attempted to hide from society, from family, and even from itself. The air was thick and intense with age, every particle suspended in time. Their flashlights traveled over the solitary cells, casting light on crude mattresses and remnants of torn clothes strewn amid disintegrating walls. The air was perfumed with a metallic tang that left a dull clatter in their mouths. Every breath a ghost's sigh laden with despair. Within that cursed corridor, the past held its ground fiercely. John captured a sense of its malevolence on camera, a feeling as if their breaths weren't the only ones fogging the air. The spirit of anguish seemed to dwell here, drawn out by the disembodied whispers of fragmented sanity. As they pressed onward, each step felt as if traversing through thickening dread, their intentions driven purely by fear of backward glances they did not dare take. Anxious to catalog something definitive, Liv proposed they explore the basements, a place so steeped in myth, reality had all but dissolved into the supernatural. The descent was neither lit nor welcoming. The stairs an ominous series of creaks beneath tensed weight. The cool below was initially refreshing, but soon coalesced into an unwelcome chill. The basement spread out before them, a cavern of forgotten possessions and broken machinery coated in age-old grime. Everything seemed to lurk in half-shadows. The further they moved into the darkness, the oppressive echo of forgotten cries skirted just beyond their hearing. A faint tremor that swelled within each vacant corridor as the lights of their cameras skittered over distant walls. They began to perceive in the corner of the room mere outlines of haggard apparitions lingering just beyond clarity, fumbling over memories. Carl accidentally knocked over a rack of rusted tools, disturbing the chilling silence. The racket seemed to anger the darkness, the air turning taut with expectancy, holding within it the breath of secrets yet untold. It was all they could do to hold themselves together under the watchful emptiness, their breath misting before lips cracked and dry. The group staggered through the maze of corridors that coiled like serpents around their sanity. Time grew elastic. Minutes stretched long past welcome, and too short to escape the nightmare unfurling ever deeper. John's camera caught glimpses of scrawled warnings across walls, gripped by peeling paint, shaky proclamations mutely insisting, "We are not who you think we are." Unfurling under the lens, ancient etchings combated the oppressive darkness, but offered no comfort, only seething mystery that tangled the thoughts. With sheer willpower, they commandeered their flight, feeling continuously nudged onward by self-imposed prestige, lost to despair. An ever-present thrum pulsed with a life of its own, weaving itself into the marrow of their bones. For every specter half seen, a tether of doubt animated every spark of belief that their mundane apparatus could record truths stranger than death, pushing beyond thresholds of knowing and sanity. A door creaked open, revealing what could have been an operations room. Instruments rusted within glass cabinets, their reflective surfaces layered with the dust of old ways, sterile beneath decay's triumph. The vision was obscured by the haze of malfunctioned memories, a penumbra of distaste. Their senses flickered with a primal fear in the presence of the unseen that seemed to brace around them, stirring the stagnant air with restless energy, unable to draw breath without feeling the constriction of each inhalation pressing around them. They strained to exist in the space held by barely remembered echoes of agonized shrieks. Sudden static erupted from the EVP recorder, pulling at strings of tangible reality and coloring it gray. An intimate wail, writhing through the airwaves in disjointed phrases, echoed aggrievedly. "Help. Still here. Help." The room turned quiet again, bloodless shadows reclaiming their reign over the decaying realm. As every inch of their flight became heavy with the burden of intruding upon something better left undisturbed.